speed. Touchdown.
Welcome in, everyone, to the first Mac and Mose of the 2014 football season. A pretty exciting time for us. Before we get started, how was your summer? How was your off season?
It was good. We're filming this a couple days before it gets posted. I'm still trying to process a big trade between your Red Sox, my Oakland A's. It's going to be an interesting postseason. Sorry to see you guys throw in the towel, but sometimes those years happen. You can't win them all.
The Boston Marlins. It's been a rough day. In case you don't know, I'm Andy McNamara. This is Rob Moseley. And as we get rolling here in the fall, we'll get back to our normal routine of previewing upcoming games and then recapping the games that happen. But for fall camp, we'll also be with you a couple of times a week to talk about how things are going. And this is a really exciting time. The team gets going in earnest on Monday. They've all reported now over the weekend. And Rob's broken down each position group heading into camp from kind of what we learned over the spring. There's a couple, I think, that people will probably be focusing on once camp gets rolling. Position battles. Quarterback is obviously set. Running back, I know people are going to want to make a story about that, but right. Byron Marshall, Thomas Tyner, plug and play. They're both going to play. Does it really matter who starts among those two? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't see one guy, the starter, getting 30 carries and the other guy getting 5. They're both probably going to get mid to high teens carries per game, no matter which one gets the first. They're both probably going to catch 3, 4, 5 passes a game too. I think they're going to be played in tandem a lot, kind of like you saw with LaMichael and Kenyon, or the way DeAnthony was used in tandem with some backs over the last couple of years. So I mean, the offensive staffs here over the years have always talked about going with your best 11, kind of regardless of how they fit together on the field position-wise. Those are 2 of your best 11. You get them on the field.
Offensive line set for the most part going into the season. Should be a real strength for this team. So offensively, a position group I think that will be in focus will be the receivers. You lose Josh Huff. Braylon Addison's status after an injury in the spring. You really probably have to assume you're not going to be able to count on him for production this year. So that opens the door for a lot of new faces to battle for playing time. I think Keenan Lowe, the veteran there, is poised to maybe up his production from a reception and yardage and touchdown standpoint. But I think it's an exciting time. You hate to lose a guy like Braylon and certainly Josh Huff, but we saw Darren Carrington. We saw we saw several players emerge during the spring. Devin Allen, Dwayne Stanford, guys, Chance Allen, guys that physically, I mean, these guys they look the part. Yeah. And now it's a chance for them to show it and earn some actual reps.
I think that's been the story for Oregon at receiver for a lot of years now. Going into every year, there's a lot of bodies, there's a lot of capable athletes, unproven, and you just anticipate that a guy or two is going to step up, and certainly there's an opportunity for more than a guy or two to step up, given all the situation as you laid it out. Is Keenan Lowe a 55-catch, 850-yard, 8-touchdown guy? He hasn't been asked to be that up to this point. He's been a blocker. He's been sort of a possession receiver. Does he have the skills to be that? We'll find out. I mean, I got to think that he's going to have the chance to develop into that kind of a role, given the fact that he's the only guy that's really proven out of this group. And then there's sort of 2 tiers then. There's sort of the veterans who haven't quite broken through yet, the Chance Allens, the B.J. Kellys, and then the new guys, the Darren Carringtons, the Devin Allens, the Jalen Browns. Johnny Lloyd. Is Johnny Lloyd going to be a factor on offense? I tend to think more on special teams, but maybe he can catch a few balls. So it's really going to be interesting over the next few weeks to watch how things sort themselves out and start to try to anticipate who's gonna not just start, but who's going to be really productive from the receiver position, because there are a lot of options. I do like the young guys. I mean, I think Darren Carrington in particular is a guy with a really high ceiling, and if he keeps his head on straight, he's really going to be a good player.
It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but I get the sense that Keenan Lowe is kind of is sort of going to be an under the radar sort of receiver for Oregon, and he's the returning starter.
Right.
And what people I think have forgotten, he's had a very productive career at that position. some of the blocks that he's laid out to spring some of the long runs or long plays for other guys over the years are countless. And when
that's the thing about him. That if you think about the biggest play he's ever made, it might be a block to spring Tyner on that long run against Washington State last year when he took out Deion Buchanan and also a linebacker, took out 2 guys on one play. That might be his biggest highlight so far. So he definitely has a chance to, which is a strange thing to say about a receiver. He definitely has a chance to turn that on its head.
But he was a track star in high school. He's not slow, but he's never been talked of in the same light as some of the burners that Oregon has had. And if you look at Oregon's receiver, you touched on it a little bit, but over the years, a guy goes from junior to senior or sophomore to junior in some cases, and the production just skyrockets. Jeff Mayle, Josh Huff, Terrence Scott, went from nothing to being kind of Oregon's top receiver one year. So that's not to just assume that Keenan is now poised to do so, but the formula seems to, laid out there, makes it look that maybe that's a possibility for him.
He, with his blocking, everything he does on special teams, very physical player. That does take its toll on your body. So if he's going to be that guy and stay healthy enough to be that guy all year, perhaps it means he needs to dial back his production in some other areas. And he is so good in some of those facets. He's always the kind of the number 2 kickoff returner, sort of the first blocker in front of whoever receives the kickoff. He's always out on the edge setting perimeter blocks offensively. He's on like punt coverage teams and things like that. And so the calculus this coaching staff might have to do is, hey, he might be so good in those roles that maybe you don't anticipate he can be a guy who can be that productive and be a breakaway threat as a receiver, and so you need other guys to step up. Or maybe you feel like you've got some bodies, maybe a Jimmy Swain comes in as a great special teams player, freshman linebacker, or Reggie Daniels, safety, is ready to take on some more special teams roles, and that can free up Keenan to do more offensively.
Well, it's kind of our key position group on the offensive side. Defense, I think everybody's excited about the defensive line. You got 3 guys that are going to be juniors that really have a chance to be to make an impact and maybe be one of the most imposing defensive lines that Oregon has had in a long time. You look at the rest of the defense, you have to replace starters in the secondary, but a lot of faces that people are familiar with, a lot of people that have significant playing time or have been working toward this moment now where they're expected to step in and contribute. But the linebacking core, while I think the front line looks fairly solid and people are going to recognize those guys. Depth might have taken a hit a little bit during the offseason, just with some attrition and some departures in that unit. So that might be one where Oregon isn't as deep as other positions.
Yeah, outside I think you feel pretty good. Tyson Coleman was banged up a little at the end of last year, but presuming that he's back and good to go, a 2 deep of Tony Washington, Christian French, Tyson Coleman, Tarodney Prevost. However things shake out in terms of who starts with Tony Washington, you probably feel pretty darn good about. Inside, with Raheem Cassell, Tyrell Robinson no longer in the mix, you really need Danny Mattingly to step up. All indications from his performance on the scout team last year were that he's ready to do that he's going to be a beast. I think Joe Walker is going to surprise some people, be a pleasant surprise. He took his lumps in some key situations when he was called upon last year, his first year as a junior college transfer, still trying to digest the defense. Now he's got a year in the system. He's a great athlete, really strong player pound for pound. I think he's going to be a pleasant surprise. I think he can be quite capable in a kind of a 3-man rotation with Rodney Hardrick and Derek Malone early in the season, while the other options there, whether it be Jimmy Swain, Danny Mattingly, a couple of freshmen, or say an Isaac Aba or Grant Thompson, Thompson newly on scholarship this year, those both guys who came here as walk-ons, can they be helped early on while the freshmen get up to speed too? But I think there's enough there to survive while the young guys get their feet under them. But everybody has to be better. You look at the drop-off in big plays by the defense. I think Oregon's turnover production fell from 40 turnovers forced in 2012 to 29 in 2013. This is a team that led the nation in tackles for loss as recently as 2007 with 122. And it hasn't been a perfect decline. It's been sort of stair-step, but it was down to 70 last year. The lowest it had been in any year between now 2013 and 2007 was 82, and in there was an 86 and a 90 something, another year over 100. So impact plays that change a game, busting through the line and tackling a guy for a loss, forcing a turnover. These are things that Oregon has come to expect from the Spencer Pazingers, the Casey Matthews, the Kiko Alonsos, the Michael Clays over the years. Rodney Hardrick and Derek Mullen need to be those guys. I certainly think they can be those guys given their year of experience. Plus, Don Pelham has talked about one thing a lot, honing things down, tailoring his defense so the guys don't have to think quite as much. They can just read and react and go make a play. I think if you combine the experience of the Malone and Hardricks with that mindset from DP, you have the chance for those guys to be freed up to really make a lot more plays this year.
Well, those loyal viewers of Mac and Mose know that we've talked, at length about Danny Mattingly and what we think of his potential. The spring, it really wasn't on the radar a whole lot.
Right.
So it'll be one of those things to watch, certainly early in fall camp, to see if he has made the next step. Because I agree. I mean, he's somebody that could really, if he's ready to play, then that group all of a sudden becomes very, very strong.
Right.
Another position group that had some key parts from last year that won't be returning is special teams.
Yeah, Matt Wogan is back after taking over the place kicking job in the middle of last year. He had a pretty good Alamo Bowl. He made his first 3 field goal attempts, ended up missing one. Made a 39-yard attempt, I think, amongst his 3 makes, which is a career long for him at that point. A big kick in a big situation, so that was good for him. He had a really bad miss in the spring game, which was disheartening because he'd been pretty good in the 2 scrimmages earlier in April. But then kind of under the lights in Autzen with people sitting in the stands, kind of shanked one. And there's a lot of moving parts in a kick. I don't know how much of that was all on him, but still. Bottom line is, we've seen some missed kicks over the years. Oregon fans are tired of seeing missed field goals. It's time to get a guy who's banging a few of those through.
Yeah.
Wogan might also be the punter this year, which will stress his leg quite a bit. But if he's the best option, maybe that's the best way to go. With Braylon Addison again uncertain who returns punts. Is Johnny Lloyd in the mix there? Do you go with a primetime player like Ifo Ekpreolumu in that role? He certainly could return punts. Darren Carrington could return punts. You lost DeAnthony Thomas and Josh Huff, who were primary kickoff returners last year. Does a Thomas Tyner step into that role, or a Devin Allen step into that role? Tanner Carew comes in, a true freshman long snapper. Drew Howell handled that with aplomb the last 4 years. Was he the exception, or can that be expected again, that another true freshman can come in, take over that job, and hold it down essentially mistake-free for 4 years? I mean, we never heard Drew Howell's name.
Exactly, and that just shows how good of a snapper he was, because you didn't even know who he was.
Right.
We knew, but a lot of people had no clue. And that's a testament to his ability. So yeah, that's another key point. And you mentioned Wogan as a potential dual threat or dual position guy with punting and kicking duties, and Alejandro Maldonado did that for a little bit. It seems like punting has all of a sudden become a little bit of a question mark the last couple of years, all the way up until the season starts, as to who's going to have that job.
Wogan has a big leg, and they liked him as a punter coming out of high school, as well as a place kicker. So, he's certainly capable. He certainly has the talent to do that. It's just a matter of, how many swings does a guy have in his leg each week? How much is he going to be able to practice both? Obviously, you want him focusing on the consistency of his place kicks when there's 3 points on the line every time he's out there. There is another option in Ian Wheeler, a walk-on who was around here last year, and who, I think you and I both felt like watching him in practices that if necessary, he's a guy who could get the job done. Not quite as big of a leg, but certainly good hang time, more than adequate hang time, can get the ball down the field, can place it pretty well. So there is another option there. So that'll be sort of a subtle but interesting thing to watch over the next few weeks too. Is Wogan going to be the guy to do both jobs, or does it look like it'd be a better option to kind of split things up there?
Well, the first week is now underway, and we'll check back in with you. The first couple practices, no pads, no shells even, so it'll be it'll be kind of a glorified walkthrough out there, but it'll still be football.
It's a strength and conditioning test as much as anything.
Yeah.
Did you get yourself in shape over the last few months? Are you going to be losing your lunch a few times over the next week?
We got to see Jaylen Brown, true freshman who arrived early, so he actually participated in spring drills, and just seeing him from day one to the end of that, he's now a battle-tested training veteran. So.
No, that took its toll. I mean, you could see for him, for somebody that month of spring drills took its toll on him. So that'll be invaluable that he's gone through that mentally and he's gone through that physically. This will be his second camp now. I'd expect him and Johnny Lloyd too, a guy who came in for the spring, as well as the JC transfers to Italia, Hanatelli Lausi, Dominique Harrison. Those guys are going to be so much more comfortable now than they were in April, and it's such a benefit for them to have been here for several months now.
One of the things I think that I enjoy the most about fall camp, at least the beginning, is those freshmen that jump out, or newcomers. They could be transfers that might not be the 5-star or the 4-star guy, but that guy, Michael Clay.
Right.
Practice number 2, you knew this guy's, not only is this guy going to play, he is going to be a really good college football player. So we'll have to see. We'll report back to you in a couple days, let you know if we have any of those guys, that might not have been at the top of the recruiting charts on signing day, but all of a sudden you're like, holy smokes, this guy's really good.
We think we know what they got in Royce Freeman. Yeah. All indications are that the freshman running back is coming in ready to help this team soon. So that's just adding to the riches that Oregon already has at that position. But there's going to be somebody, maybe one of those safeties, Matrell McGraw or Khalil Oliver looks ready to help on special teams and with some of the depth there. Maybe a Tyrell Crosby comes in and with tackle depth being an issue, maybe he shows that he can help with a few snaps. I mean, Steve Greatwood has not been shy about playing true freshman with Jake Fisher a couple years ago and Cameron Hunt last year. I was joking on Twitter with Jeff Schwartz. When he played as a true freshman in 2004, it's like this rare thing. Nobody could remember the last time a true freshman offensive lineman had played. There's been a couple in the last few years. So maybe a Crosby comes in and can help this team as well. We just don't know, and now it's time to find out.
Well, if you have any questions for us, anything you'd like us to discuss during Mac and Mose, please get at us. I'm at McNamara UO. He is at Duck Football, and we will see you.
For the touchdown. It's through 50. He's got the speed. Touchdown.